Hello.
Hi, Charlie. How are you?
Very well, thank you, Artem. How are you?
I'm great. And with that introduction, I love the good vibes. Good vibes only from you. I like it.
Of course. We always have a little bit of music. We've got to get the energy up. You know how it is. I don't need to preach to the choir, right?
No, I think everybody in our industry, or for the most part, almost everybody in our industry, knows that good vibes bring good results.
Absolutely. Well, I have good vibes for you because I have a little introduction for you. So here we go.
Love it.
My guest today was the winner of Entertainer of the Year Award in 2018 and is an MC extraordinaire with a refined performance style and a sophisticated presentation. Not only a multi-award winning event entertainer, he is also a public speaker and entrepreneur who is known for his extreme attention to detail and personalized methodology. He personally cultivates top-tier entertainment with his company, 93 Entertainment, and I'm delighted that he's here with me today. Please welcome the fabulous Artem Lomaz.
Thank you again, Charlie. That was beautiful.
You're welcome. You have to have an introduction because we have to know all about you and what you do. So thank you for spending your Friday afternoon with me here.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
I love it. I love it. So I find it fascinating that you created this amazing career for yourself from being an MC. How did this all get started for you? Was this something that you always wanted to be as a kid, or was this something that you perfected later on in life?
No, it's definitely something I found later on in life. I wish I found it earlier, of course, but yeah, it was something that just sort of organically happened. So when I was in college, I was chasing my advertising dreams, and I really wanted to work in advertising. And while I was in college, I picked up a weekend job for a catering company. I just needed some extra money because when you're in college, you just, every little bit helps. Right. So basically, I started working in catering on weekends. And I had no culinary aspirations or anything. It was strictly a weekend sort of job. But I realized it was a lot more fun to be out in the event, in the party space than it was in the kitchen. So I got those little moments. I got a couple minutes here, a couple minutes there, being able to go out there, see the party, and then it was time to head back to the kitchen. And so as it progressed, I was like, okay, that's cool. I like the event world, but it was still on the back burner. I was still chasing the advertising dreams. And then eventually I graduated and I got my opportunity in advertising, and I started working in an ad agency, and I started doing my research as different ways to be in the advertising space. And I think just a combination of like enthusiasm and youthful arrogance, I figured I could do both and go 100% on both areas. And I felt like, well, I'm going to build my entertainment company, and then I'm also going to be kicking butt in advertising, and I'm going to do both, and it'll be fine. Very quickly realized that that's not realistic.
I can imagine.
Yeah. And so I decided to eventually make the jump to entertainment. Basically, when I started being out of the kitchen and seeing these entertainers, it put a little bug in my mind where it was like, okay, well, I think I can do that. And then it gradually went to, well, I know I can do that. And then it went to, I think I could do that, but maybe better. So it escalated in different ways. And then I realized that there's a variety of different entertainers. There's a lot of different ways to entertain. And of course, different crowds, right? Different audiences. Mm-hmm. There's different ways to speak to those audiences. And so I also learned that the old adage that good ones make it look easy is very true. And so as I started to learn more about the industry, I really realized that it wasn't just what I was seeing. There was a lot more background work. If anything, there's probably more background work than what you see. So as I got more into it, I started to really fall more and more in love with the event world and a little less and less in love with the advertising world. Although I'm still a fan, and I did carry some of the things that I learned in advertising into my business and into our world and the way that I kind of put forth our efforts in the events.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So being an MC is very, you've got to be very confident. You've got to be a great public speaker. Was this something that you found that you just have it inherent in you, or did you ever want to be an actor? What made you, because that's quite a skill to have, to be an MC. Not everybody can do it and do it well, as we know.
Sure, yes. I never wanted to be an actor, but I'm a big comedy nerd. So I've always admired stand-up comedians. And the thing about stand-up comedy is you're there on the stage alone.
Yeah.
And you have to capture these people's attention stand-up comedians have what they call a tight five, which is literally when you get a chance to perform, you have to have 5 minutes of your tightest, your best material. And if you do get that big break, then you have an hour-long special. So it's just you and a microphone and a stage.
Yeah.
Oh, and then obviously, hopefully an auditorium full of people.
Yeah.
And you have to hold their attention for an hour and make them laugh at the same time, right?
Yeah.
So in my admiration, I never wanted to be a stand-up comedian, but I always admired them so much. And I have friends in that world too. So I kind of saw a little bit of the background inner workings of it.
It's hard.
Very hard. Yeah. I think like anything that's worth it in the long run is hard, right?
Yeah.
So I think that, I think a coupling of my admiration for entertainers in general, and then in advertising, I realized I was always pitching ideas. So I was always kind of presenting things. And a lot of times when you're presenting your own ideas, it's like you're kind of putting out your children, right? Like your own thoughts, your own creative ideas are kind of like your kids because you came up with it. And sometimes you have to learn when to modify a pitch, even though you might love it so much, or sometimes back away from a pitch because you see it's not being welcomed as much as you thought it would be. So that kind of took me into a space of knowing how to adjust. And that comes very much in handy in the MC space. Yeah. And then speaking of them, working a room, understanding what your audience is expecting, keeping them on the edge of their seat, but not scaring them away from it, right? Mm-hmm. So I think there's a lot of psychology involved, and I've always loved psychology too.
You're right, yeah.
And then I think just like psychology and then the combination of hospitality and etiquette. So like growing up, my grandmother was always very hospitable. She always loved having parties at the house, and she always loved throwing dinners. So just knowing that was just something that I grew up with, a sense of hospitality. And then she was also very big on etiquette. And so combining those, then going into the luxury event space, all sort of clicked. Like it all just weirdly fell together in this weird puzzle I didn't even know existed. But
you know it's right. You know it's right when it just falls into place and the doors open.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And I think a lot of that is understanding your market, right? So it's like people want to go into certain markets and then figure out ways to present themselves properly for that market, to like brand themselves. For me, I kind of felt like it was sort of the opposite, where I'm like, I know what they're looking for, but I feel like I'm already there. Like I am that. I understand what they're looking for. Yeah. So it sort of came naturally in that regard. And that's not to say that I'm for everybody either. I'm sure there's audiences that aren't looking for what I provide. But I think knowing that too is also a benefit.
Yeah. Yeah. It's interesting. We have MCs over here that are DJs MC together, or we have our bands that have the MC who is the lead singer of the band. We don't have a lot of an MC to sort of like play the whole night, that lead everything on to the next thing, It's just an MC. So it's great that you've carved that out for you, because there's not a lot of people like you.
That is, and you and I have discussed this, privately, that definitely something that seems to default sometimes to a DJ or to a band leader or to a vocalist. And sometimes it's welcomed, and sometimes it's just there and they have to do it. But what I think I did was maybe slightly subconsciously, but then when I realized it was working, I definitely consciously ran with it. In the advertising world, when you're working on campaigns, you have a copywriter and an art director, and they put them in the same office and they basically force them to work together. They have very different skill sets. So I look at that as like a DJ or a band. They have musical skill sets that I do not possess. I've tried. I do not possess them.
You can't give us a song. You can't.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So like they're musical artists in their own right. They are artists. So they are creating their art form. Yeah. And when you look at an art director, like they're doing the design of the advertising campaign. The copywriter's coming up with the ideas. They're coming up with the execution, and they do have to work together. It's not going to work if they're sitting in different offices. So that's why they're forced to work together. And I feel like a lot of that is what I carried over into when I started 93 Entertainment. At its core, it was a DJ company. I have DJs that I was basically putting on my roster and figuring out which events they belonged to, but I was the MC at every event. And so I knew I would need to coordinate with them. So of course I was picking the people that I knew I could coordinate with. Yeah. I'm admittedly, delightfully difficult, and my team is aware of it.
No, Not difficult. I would think that you have a very high standard. As I said in my opening, you know, you have
That's
a
what I
precise
said.
methodology.
They choose the word difficult. I'm going with whatever works. Yes, I do think that
I'm
in our
difficult.
I'm delightfully difficult. That's the delightfully part. No, I have a high standard, and they realize that, and they know that at the end of the day, it's because the end goal is to make sure we're creating the best possible experience for our clients.
Yeah.
So
And
it's a joke. Like, they do it in a joking manner, but I know that my standards are high, and I'm okay with that because I feel like my client standards are high.
hey, look, it's your company. Your name is, you know, it's your name. You are the founder. So
It's that, but more importantly, the ones that are cutting our checks, they have expectations that need to be exceeded. So
exactly.
we're going to work to get there.
Exactly. How long have you had the company?
So we are in year 8.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, it's just a jumble right now at this point. Really, it just doesn't even feel like 8 years. It feels like a lifetime.
Yeah.
And some days it feels like, oh, I can't even believe, you know, more than 5 years has gone by.
I know. It goes by so fast, doesn't it? I feel like
It absolutely does.
being in this industry is like dog years. All of a sudden, you know, I'm 100 years old, and it's like,
listen, such is life. Such is life.
Yeah. Yeah. I know. So how many DJs do you have?
It varies by event. So I would say right now I have a solid list of like 5, knowing that I can count on different ones for different events. So I understand that there's a talent that might be better suited for a wedding than someone that's better suited for a corporate event. It also based on location as well. I will say I have a network that's global. So if I need to be in another state or in another country and I can't bring one of my rostered DJs along, I can certainly reach out to my network. And luckily, I've been very fortunate that network is there for me.
That's fantastic. Because your company is based in New Jersey, yes?
We started in New Jersey, yeah. So we're based in New Jersey, New York area. I'm currently in Florida, so I go back and forth, and it's all part of the expansion efforts. And then for myself as the MC, as sort of the headliner MC in that regard, I'm at a point where I feel like I can be wherever I need to be as long as I can get out there. Yeah. So when we are back to destination work, that's where my efforts will also lie, where it doesn't matter where I physically am sitting. I will be where I need to be come event time. Right? Yeah.
Do you love destinations?
I do. Yeah. I feel like just being able to travel and experience different things. I really think that even pre-pandemic, we were headed towards maybe smaller guest counts, but more experiential weddings and events. And because of that, I feel like people were looking for different destinations, you know? So I think the natural evolution of my cousin got married there and my best friend got married there and so-and-so got married there. I don't want to get married there. So it eventually, you know, went from that being said about venues in the area to then, you know, states, countries, wherever. I want to do something that someone else may not be able to do. Yeah. Or hasn't done yet. Right.
Absolutely. Miss Glorious White wants to know if you've ever been to the UK. Have you done an event in England?
I have not yet, so I'm very open to that.
All right. We'll see if we can make that happen.
That would be great.
I know that you go to the Engage a lot, which is a wonderful summit for all the luxury wedding entertainers, wedding vendors. And I love going through your website. You've been to quite a few, haven't you?
I've been to 2. Yeah, so I've been to 2. I will say for anybody watching, it's definitely an experience worthy of experiencing, right? For lack of a better phrase, but it's definitely worth pursuing. It's definitely worth going and investing and making sure that you develop those relationships and the education. And I will also state that they sell out very quickly.
I mean, literally within hours.
Within hours, yeah, if not within minutes. So there's been some where I've been to the 2, and I would have loved to have gotten to more, but they sell out very quickly.
Yeah, so, I've never been able to get in because sold out.
it's very quick. Yeah. So at some point, it reminds you of like old college days when you're trying to get the class everybody wanted that wasn't too early or wasn't too late. So you just sit there refreshing your page every time. Yeah. So I will say for anybody that hasn't gone or anybody that wants to, you know, go back or whatever, wants to experience, sit at your computer and literally refresh the page the day that it's going on sale, because it might come down to those final few minutes.
Yeah, and it is an amazing experience. Like the parties are phenomenal. I mean, you've got the best of the best putting the parties on in each country that it's at.
Yeah, it is. And like